Right now, we all have the chance to get very close to a manuscript of Beethoven. And Beethoven is probably the composer that is more known, more important to, more loved by the greatest number of people that we can imagine for a composer of classical music. And yet, if you look at the printed music, generation after generation of printed music, and you compare it to the manuscript as we're about to do, you are going to find that there's very different information in those two things. And what you're looking at right now is a screen that points out one of the enormous differences. When you read printed music, there are 5 or 6 dynamics that we encounter. Triple forte, double forte, forte, piano, 2 pianos, 3 pianos. Well, when you read the manuscripts, something emerges which is quite startling. And I have to admit, at first you don't see it. At first you see special markings, and it's as if they just represent the normal thing. But what it boils down to is a 20-level system of dynamics. Now, let's just start at the loudest one that's the most obvious. This is 3 fortes, so this means the loudest thing you can imagine, super loud. Well, what happens as you go down from that is Beethoven has a special distinct marking. He takes the word fortissimo, and he keeps the FF, that means is normally very loud, 2 Fs, but he retains the last 2 letters, so FFMO. And what you'll find in the manuscripts is that he uses that when something is extremely important, when it has a special significance, a special intensity. If it's just normal kind of loudness, then it's the next level, just FF. Now, the next dynamic down from that is forte, but what one finds in the manuscripts is that there's a very clear delineation of different importance to different parts. And it results in this. Sometimes, when it's very, very important, he writes out the whole word forte, F-O-R-T-E. If it's a little less important, he writes out 3 letters of it, so F-O-R. If it's yet 1 level down in intensity, he just does F-O. And yet, back to the sort of normal level, we have what we're used to and what we normally see in music, which is just F. Then there are a few things where the words describe what's happening. We have poco forte, so a little bit forte, mezzo forte, so kind of half of forte, mezzo piano, which is a little less than mezzo forte probably, but it's related to the softer dynamic, piano, or a P. In Italy still today, you'll hear people go piano, piano, piano when they want things to be calm or quiet. And well, that's what the word does in music too. So here is piano, just 1 P. Now this is where it gets totally surprising. And this is where it's even more surprising that as you spend more time with it, it's completely systematic. And it's a system which has shown up everywhere in music that I've certainly studied between 1802 and 1826. So that's 24 years where this system is in evidence for Beethoven. And that is piano with 1 underline. So that's an underline on the stem. Then we have piano with 2 underlines, so 2 underlines on the stem. So that's already 3 levels for piano. Well, then we move to the next one where there's 2 Ps, so that's softer. So that's pianissimo, and that's the way we normally see it in printed music, is P, P, 2-letter Ps. Well, indeed, for Beethoven, he then clarifies. He delineates something even more refined by taking those 2 Ps and putting 1 underline on the stems. Well, the next one is 2 Ps with 2 underlines on the stem. Now you remember back here for very, very important sections, we had the FFMO. Well, now we have the counterpart. This is PP, and it's also PPMO, same thing. Pianissimo, he takes the last two letters and puts them next to the two letter Ps. That, again, is for sections where there is a rarefied mood, something very, very intense which is happening in the music, and that is where PPMO is used. Well, it goes further. Now we have three Ps, so this is getting now incredibly soft. And indeed, then he extends it further in the same logic. He has three Ps with one underline and three Ps with two underlines.
Nick, it's interesting to notice in this that scholars have frequently talked about how Beethoven expanded the dynamics one notch to the top and one notch to the bottom. So people will say that Beethoven went from the fortissimo to fortissimo, and how he went from the pianissimo to the triple piano. But I think what this reveals is that not only was he interested in expanding the spectrum, but he was interested very much in the gradations in between. It was really important to him, and the emotional message that all these gradations can associate with the music.
That's right, and you know, it's a little bit of a danger that we love the memories that we have of the heroic music of Beethoven, and this in general is loud. And so there's a tendency to think that he's somehow moody and loud and angry. But this kind of tells a different story, because obviously he's interested in many more gradations on the soft side than he is on the loud side. And I think that tells you a lot about the internal qualities which build the strength of expression that shows up so gloriously in those loud parts. In some funny sense, he's earning the ability to say something glorious in such a memorable way by the extreme subtlety with which he treats all the dynamic levels.